Good evening and welcome to the Great British Hangout. Our topic tonight is how to Google your business. So Google Maps, Google Places, Google Local, brand pages, local pages, and now Google My Business. It's very confusing which pages you need for your business. Tonight we're going to clarify it all. So what we'd like to do tonight is get some outcomes for you guys who are watching. So what we're hoping to achieve is that you're going to be very clear about what is the best setup for your business. We want you to be confident about what you need to do to sort it out, or we want you to be reassured that you have it right, because you might have it right. So before I introduce our guests, I'd like to check in with Peter, who's my glamorous assistant this evening, and he's going to be doing the comment wrangling. Peter, how's it going?
I'm good, Kath. Thank you very much. Yeah, we've all been sitting here trying to keep cool. I think it's been a very hot day. I guess wherever you are in the world, in fact, it might be worth saying where you are in the world. If you're in the comments stream, tell us where you are in the world, tell us the temperatures and the weather where you are today, so we can have a weather check as well. So extra value to the Great British Hangout tonight.
Well, it's super hot with me, I have to tell you. Getting hotter by the second. Okay, what I'd like to do is introduce our guests for tonight. So we have with us Nick Rink. Nick is a local search expert. He's also our technical lead for tonight. He runs Smart Local Marketing, which does what it says on the tin. He's based out of Wimbledon. Nick owns lots of ties, apparently, and he responds to the name Wrinkle. Nick, would you like to say hi?
That nickname I always thought was private. I didn't realise I had that public on my profile. We'll have to change that.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's cool. Yeah, based here in Wimbledon, southwest London, and basically living down here and working with Smart Local for about, what is it now, 4.5, 5 years, and primarily dealing in that space that is, well, what was Google Places and has now morphed into Google My Business, and helping a variety of businesses, both locally and up in the northwest a little bit, which is where I'm from originally as well. So. Great to be invited on the show. Really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Fantastic to have you. Thank you for joining us. Our second guest is Donna Beckett. Donna is a lawyer first and a confessed social media addict second. Donna's going to be representing the business owner perspective in this discussion. She's based in Chorley in Lancashire, another northern lass. And has been running Beckett Co Solicitors for 13 years. Many of you will know Donna from the UK Connect community, where members are fondly referred to as the Brit Pack. Donna, do you want to say hi?
Hello, hello. Yes, thanks very much, Kath and Peter, for inviting me to join you tonight. I will just say to everybody, this is my very first live hangout on air. I can't believe that Kath actually convinced me to do this, but she did. Well done. Yes, so I'm here as a business owner. I am a social media addict. Anybody who knows me will know that I'm a particular advocate of Google+. I think it's absolutely brilliant as a platform. And I am on a mission to get the UK plussing. So hopefully our hangout tonight will encourage some people who perhaps are a little bit unsure about using the platform to jump in and join us.
Excellent. That's what we're all about. That's also what the Great British Hangout is about. So thank you for that. Come on, guys, let's get involved. So, okay, so what we're going to do with our veritable feast of accents that we've got going on here, hope you can keep up with us. We're going to get cracking. We're going to hand over to Nick, who's going to tell us more about what Google My Business is and what it means for local business. Nick, over to you.
Right, thanks, Kath. Yeah, as you said, I mean, it's great to see some familiar names and faces from all around Google+. Keep those questions coming in. It's great to get some additional questions coming. There's already been some on the comment stream, so it's nice to have those as well. Right, so here we are now at Google My Business. which has been quite a journey for lots of us. Google started their local listings back in about 2004, which then became their local business center, which then became Google Places, and then a couple of years ago, Google plus Local came about. Google My Business as it is now, so it's been coming for a while, and basically what it's done is it's given businesses a portal through which they can much more effectively and simply control their data, get access to some good insights. There'll be access to AdWords Express in there, and connect a whole variety of additional Google products, YouTube for instance, and things like that. What's relatively new about this whole thing is the social aspect of these local pages. I'll just leave that aside for 1 minute and just talk about what's really important, and that's effectively the data. There's lots of cosmetic changes to Google My Business. That's effectively what it is. What it hasn't changed is what Google knows about your business. You still have to tell them that to a certain degree. And the data that is in Google My Business gets fed into lots of additional Google products. So it goes into Google Search, goes into Google Maps, it affects Google Mobile, and as we get more into, Google wearables, like things like Glass and smartwatches that are coming in the future, all of this data is going to feed into that as well. So it's going to become even more important than it already is. Now, Google's primary objective with this is to try and make sure that every single place that they have on maps is accurate. Their whole thing with Google Maps is that you can go from point A to point B and not get lost. Whether you're walking, whether you're taking public transport, whether you're driving, whether you're taking a plane, you go onto Google Maps and you can plot from Brighton to New York, and it will give you all the flight times. It's amazing. So all of that stuff is what it's about. So in order to get that information, they go to a variety of sources that they trust, where they can either access or buy that information. Here in the UK, you've got places like Companies House, the Royal Mail, two of the biggie ones. You've also got other data companies. Couple of the important ones would be the Local Data Company. Another one is Factual. The Local Data Company is British. Factual is, I think, based in the States. These guys sell data not just to Google, but elsewhere as well. And Google then looks at all that available data for each business, and they cluster it all together and they compare it for accuracy, and then use that along with a variety of other factors in the local search results. With me so far?
Yep.
Just got to check. So the issue is, if you have any inaccurate data about your business out there on the web, it causes confusion, and that potentially has a knock-on effect to how visible your local listing is in local search. So if, for instance, you've moved location, or you've changed phone numbers, or you've rebranded, so you've got a different business name, all of that needs to be carefully managed so that you can make sure that the data Google is looking at, not just what you provide it through Google My Business, but elsewhere around the web, is all up to date and consistent. If you get all of that sorted, then you can really start moving into the social aspect of what's relatively new for these, specifically the local pages at least anyway, and really start to kick on and connect and engage with other individuals and other businesses, and grow your business that way. Which kind of brings us back to the start, I think, which is initially determining what kind of page is best for your business. So that's, I think that kind of brings us back to that sort of point.
Okay, so let me just ask you a question. Is it that, because with places and the data that Google has, a lot of companies will have pages already created that they haven't created. Is that correct? So basically you need to work out whether you've got a page already, and are you better to claim that page and work with that, or just start from scratch and create a new page?
If there's a page that's already out there for you, then that will have been created either through the data that Google have about you and your business, or it may have been created by, through some of the other Google products. For instance, there's a product called MapMaker where it's a crowdsourcing platform effectively, and you can go in there and create anything for a map. So you can create places. So for new businesses that are literally brand new, that's one way to go. But the best way to figure out whether you actually have a page already, when you're logged into Google, you go to the pages bit in the navigation down the left-hand side and just go to that, create page, which will then take you to a screen where you can search for your business. If it shows up, then claim it. Because if you start from scratch, you run the risk of actually having duplicates, and that can be an almighty pain to sort out. The system as it is now makes that less likely to happen, because through Google My Business, the way that it sort of flows is you actually have to search for your business initially anyway. You can't just go in and set it up.
Okay, so if there's a places page that's been created a while ago and you're not aware of it, the best place to go and look for that is go to Google Plus, go under the local tab on the left-hand side, and then search in there for the name of your business and see what comes up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of ways of doing it, but that's always a good spot to start. I mean, you can always go to Google Maps and do a search on there and access your Google Plus page through that way, and then claim it that way as well. So there's a variety of different ways to go. I mean, Google Maps is a good way to go just to have a look, and then have another look on Google Plus as well, just to make sure.
Okay, and there's a little button, I think, on there that says, is this page yours? Do you want to claim this page? And then you click on that and you follow the instructions, and then you can own that page. And you can only own that page if you actually own the website that's associated with the company name, so you can't go around claiming other people's pages.
You can't verify them. So,
but you can claim them.
You can claim them, but you can't verify them, which means there's no way of actually taking ownership of it.
Okay, so just so people understand, what does verification mean? And how do you know if your page is verified or not?
Verification is, that's basically you go through the claiming process, you say this page is yours, and then it basically takes, you just follow the instructions and you get to verified. Most of the time these days it's verification through PIN, which arrives haphazardly via postcard, and usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks to show up. There are a few issues running around at the moment. So then once that postcard shows up, you basically enter your PIN number, that page is yours. What you'll then see next to your business name on your page is a little verified tick.
Right, okay, so basically people are looking to find their page, if it's out there, and claim it and verify it, and then it's under their control. Is that then, how do they then access that page after that?
After that, they can access their page again through the left-hand navigation menu actually on Google Plus. There's a little tab that says Pages, and if you click on that, it'll take you to all of the pages that you own or manage. So as a business owner, you always want to make sure that you own the page. So if you have a marketing person or an SEO person who is claiming a page on your behalf, the postcard will still be sent to you, because the postcard gets sent out to the actual business address. Whoever actually initiates the process is the page owner, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It then gets verified. Once it's been verified, business owner, you want to make sure that if it's a marketing person or SEO person like myself, that we then make you a page manager and then transfer ownership of that page to you, because it is important for the business owner to be the page owner. What can happen, and what has happened in the past, is that marketing people or maybe somebody else at the business has claimed that page with a particular email address. They then left the business, nobody knows the email address and nobody has access to change anything, and it's very difficult to get control back.
Yeah, that's our experience a lot, actually, that a lot of ex-employees have the control and nobody really knows.
Yeah.
And so that's so. Do you think? Oops, sorry. Do you think that Google My Business then helps to bring all of these pages together under control and visibility, and it just makes it all easier to manage?
I think that's exactly what it does. It does make the whole process a lot easier to manage. The platform itself is easier to understand. There should be less confusion, and you can actually have multiple page managers of individual pages. You have one page owner, but you can have multiple page managers, which, you know, in certain businesses that, you know, that makes a lot of sense. You can have, you know, various different people doing various different things on the page.
Okay, so you can have you have one owner, but you can have up to 50 managers on a page.
Yeah.
And a business can have multiple pages as well, can't they? So they can have brand pages and local pages. Why would you have different pages, or would you not?
If there is a local page for you, then that's generally the way to go. That's what I would always recommend. I don't really see, if you have a local page, having a brand page as well, there's not really too much benefit. You're kind of doubling up. The only time where that could make sense would be if you're a franchise business or you've got business with multiple locations, where you may also want to have a specific brand page as well. So that would be the case there, I think. You know, having an address, it does give you, again, it gives you a certain amount of real estate when someone's doing a brand search for you, and you know, if you have a local page showing up, it shows your location, it shows a variety of other things, which is pretty useful.
Okay, super. What I'd like to do is bring Donna in and see what's your experience of Google local pages? Do you have a local page?
We do have a local page, and it was set up by accident as a local page because I set my page up back in 2012. And I can't for the life of me remember what I did or what I didn't do to set that page up. But it turns out that it is a local page. But probably last year I got a little bit confused because there's always been this confusion about pages, whether we have a brand page or a local page, what is the page that we've got. And I actually set up a brand page. So I ended up with a brand page. Realised that I didn't need it. Oh, there's my results. Thanks, Nick. Realised that I didn't really need my brand page, and I now find that I have sort of duplicate pages. And I think this is a problem that I come across when I'm chatting to people about Google+. That people end up with the pages that Google themselves have created from Google Places, and people themselves have set up Google local pages. They've set up brand pages, and there's a lot of confusion as to what people should do when they have those multiple pages. I myself, if I go into my pages manager, I have about 4 different pages popping up. 2 of them now are sort of defunct pages that stemmed from my Google Places listings, and then the others are just sort of there. I did attempt to delete one of my pages, my defunct sort of brand page, and Google gave me a message saying, if you delete this account, everything will be gone. And I went into a major panic and said, oh, no. And I just didn't have the confidence to press that button because I imagined my profile and everything else disappearing. So I've kind of got a page there. The downside for me is that because pages do show up in search, and they do show up in Google Plus searches, people do occasionally add my sort of dormant page to their circles, and that can be a bit of an issue, and you can find that people end up with more than one page and they end up with followings on both pages. And obviously we can merge the pages to a degree now, but we've still got that issue, I think, with lots of people having defunct pages. So Nick no doubt can tell us that if we press that delete button, will the world come to an end?
I haven't had the guts to do it.
I have. Go ahead, Nick. You tell us what your opinion is.
No, seriously, I've actually, luckily, not been in that situation. And I've spoken to people that have, and pressing that button is extremely nervy. So if you've been through it, Kath, how was it?
Okay, I'm going to tell you about it because exactly, Donna, what you're explaining is what we did. And I came to that page 3 times and I thought, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I was so terrified. And then I thought, hang on, I keep coming back to this page. I'm sure I'm looking at the right page, and it's got, all of them have the same company name. And I thought, how do I know that this is absolutely the right page? And there are subtle differences between that instruction that it gives you. There are subtle differences between each of the different ones. And so you know that you are actually deleting the right page. And when you do click delete, that defunct page is gone. So do it. It doesn't delete anything else, she says. Disclaimer. If it does, it is. It's if the name is the same, it's hard. It's easier if there's some slight difference in the title. And maybe, I don't know, changing the title on the page, then following it through might give you a bit more confidence. But we did have some that had been picked up in directories under kind of old addresses. And so we had these pages that were just local pages and not doing anything. And that was, when I looked in my Google Plus, my business, there's all these pages, and I thought, well, where did these come from? This is, I don't want these anymore. So I did that. I got rid of a number of pages that were defunct, and then I had a local page that was set up ages ago, and I had a brand page that I'd set up. Actually, my husband had set up the local page, so he was the owner, and I was the manager, and so I had to switch the ownership over to me. And then there's a 2-week gap, like a 2-week cooling off period, and the ownership is then automatically switched over after 2 weeks. And then when all of the pages that you want to control and link together are under the same ownership, you can go to settings, and there's an option close to the bottom that says something like which Google Plus page do you want this to be associated with. And so I went to the local page and I looked at settings, and I looked at that option and I said I want this to be associated with the Strategy Digital brand page. And then what happened was the other page kind of still stays there. It's like a redirect, but everything is pulled together. So effectively, your local page inherits all your followers. And you get a kind of local appearing page, so you get a map, you get reviews, you get all the benefits of a local page pulled in with your brand page. And I think that seems like the right thing to do, because then I have one page that has all the local stuff and also the social elements of it as well. So I hope I've done the right thing. I don't know if I could unpick it, but hopefully, Nick, have I done the right thing?
Yeah, that's the way to go. I mean, you basically go to local page, into the settings, and scroll all the way down to the bottom. If you have another page, then that option that you mentioned will appear. If you don't, then it won't. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you've got to be the owner, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And it's not strictly a merge. It's all that content comes over, and then your original brand page just sort of stays there as a backup. So it'll still probably show in your pages menu when you go and log in, but
it does. It shows it's listed as backup of Strategy Digital, but it looks exactly the same, and it's got all the same content and stuff. So, Donna, what do you think? Are you gonna merge?
Well, again, my issue with merging is that my local page has 1,500 plus followers, and my brand page has about 10, or I don't know, just a few dozen. And I've sort of looked at the merging option, and on the examples that I've seen, it seems to be that the brand page stays there and inherits the local functions and local features of the local page, but not necessarily the followers. That was my understanding. Now I may be completely wrong on that. So that would be my only concern. That if it merged the wrong way, I think there's lots of people out there. Fortunately, they've got quite low follower numbers on both of their pages, and probably I would definitely say, yeah, go for it at this stage. But I feel that I have something to lose with my current page. Having said that, I don't really see, because I do feel the benefits of having a local page, I don't really feel that I'm missing out on any features that I would have otherwise if it was merged with a brand page. I mean, is there anything in particular that I'm missing out on just having a local page?
Nick, what do you think?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, for your, for a bricks and mortar business, and where, even if you're specifically trying to build and attract more business from your local community, then it's absolutely essential to have a local page, because that's effectively what local search is all geared for. Even if you're looking nationally, there's nothing that you can't do with a local page that you can do with a brand page, or very little at least. There's some of the layout on the About tab is a little bit different, but you have the ability to get reviews from clients and from other businesses, which you don't necessarily have with a straight up brand page. And those reviews again add that sort of social value to and authority to those pages, and hopefully helps when people come along to your page, then, well, they do a good job, and then you get a searcher who actually picks up the phone and becomes a potential client. So there's lots of benefits to it. I mean, socially, you can do exactly the same with either of them. So there's no real difference in terms of that aspect.
I'm just noticing in the comments, Lee has just mentioned about vanity URLs. I mean, that's another issue, isn't it? That a lot of people have claimed vanity URL for their existing page, and perhaps wouldn't want to start merging with a different page that doesn't have the vanity URL.
And I think that's a really good point, and that Lee's brought up. And I mean, there's other ways to get around the merging. I mean, if you've got a brand page that maybe doesn't have that many followers, you can just put one post on there saying, we're not here anymore, we've gone over here. At least people will then go over there and follow you. The vanity URL issue is something that just sort of seems to be just sort of out there at the moment. I'm not entirely sure what direction Google are going in on that. You'll probably notice if you've got a .com email website, then you get a very nice, clean vanity URL. But if you've got .co.uk, it can end up looking, or something else, it can end up looking a little messy.
You also can't change it.
No.
as we found out when we rebranded, which is a real shame. But
although, I mean, with what they've done recently in terms of opening up the ability for individuals not having to use their actual name, and they can use any name, then that might suggest that at some point in the future they'll open up vanity URLs and become a little bit more flexible with those too, one would hope.
That's what I'm hoping for. Right, let me bring in Peter, whose comment wrangling's been keeping an eye on what's going on out there. So what's happening? Have we got anybody watching?
Yeah, there's plenty of comments going on, and it's all a bit hectic actually. I'm thinking, what questions do I bring up? I mean, it's interesting that Amelia Hoskins has just said this. She said Google told me that as much as possible to use a local page for search results, which I think is an important point, because what Google is saying now, I think, is that by the end of this year, over 50% of searches will be on a mobile device. And as far as local search goes, or as far as searching on a mobile or a tablet, it's much more localized, much more, especially if you're out and about. So that will be important, I guess, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're trying to attract people, again, if you've got a bricks and mortar, I mean, if you're a restaurant or a bar or anything else where you really are trying to attract specifically local people or walk-in traffic, if you don't have a local page, you're not really, it's going to be much harder to show up in the local search results. And when you come to mobile, even more important, if you're not visible online, you're in danger of becoming invisible offline. So, and that's, that and not just with mobile, like I said, as devices in the future, you're wearing watches and all kinds of other things, that the actual screen size that we can look at and the amount of data that Google can put on there is going to be become tighter and tighter. So local pages for local search is definitely the way to go. You can still target nationally with it, so it's not an issue with that.
I think it's actually worth just bringing up Donna's, I can find it again. I think I've lost it now, actually. Let me just see if I can find it just quickly. So, hang on.
This was Donna's page, Donna's local listing, and what that actually looks like in search.
So can you see that now?
There you go.
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at that in terms of the knowledge, what's called the knowledge graph over on the right-hand side, it just shows the real value of putting, I know, Donna, you said this happened almost by accident, but it shows you the real value of putting some effort into the happening, because you've got your address, your phone number, you've got a number of the people who are actually following you on Google Plus is a big signal to come over to Google Plus. Your opening and closing times, your pin in your map. And so if someone's searching for Beckett Co Solicitors in shortly, then what a perfect advertisement. I mean, people think about having Yale.com pages, or Hibu as it's called now. And what a better way to have a really top branded free page on Google Search, on the first page of Google Search. I think it's a really good and worthwhile thing to do. And
that knowledge graph actually also shows a lot of the times it will show photos if you've got those on your page. If you've done, like you just have the Google Business View, which is the sort of 360 virtual tour, that will show up right within that local knowledge graph as well. So you can do a brand search and someone can click on that virtual tour and go straight into your business and have a good look around. So for certain businesses, that's really useful.
Yeah, it's quite exciting. We had ours done today, filmed today, so hopefully it'll all go smoothly and it'll appear on our local page, and you will actually be able to walk into our office, all the way through our offices, and see most of us working with blurred faces, I believe. It's a bit of fun.
Vivek actually had a question a little bit earlier on, but I just wanted to come back to that. And he basically asked, if you are a franchisee now, how do you handle these pages, Nick?
I guess that would depend on the franchise itself and how they manage things. For businesses with multiple locations, it can be tricky at the moment. A lot of these things are controlled at sort of brand head office, where they effectively bulk verify all of their listings, and at the moment there's no way to then go in and individually allocate managers to those pages and then render them social. So you tend to see a lot of pages, certainly in the food sort of restaurant industry, where they'll just look like effectively old Google Places pages. There's nothing going on, there's no real images, but there'll be a little checkbox by the name, so you know that it's been verified, and that's effectively, those pages are all owned by that particular brand. And at the moment, like I said, there's no way to individually have page managers. That's something that we understand Google are looking at and working on and should be rolling out soon. So for those businesses, effectively any business that's got multiple locations, I mean, for bulk listings management, I think you need more than 10 or more pages. That's effectively what's coming. I'd keep an eye out for that, because that'll be happening really soon. The trick for those large organizations is that now you have one brand page, then you may have only 1 or 2 people managing it. If you've got 25 or 30 or even 50 locations, all of a sudden you've still got maybe 2 overall page owners. All of a sudden you've got 50 page managers out there, and making sure that they all know what they should be doing, that's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, and something that I'm sure a lot of the bigger brands and organisations have been looking at and taking into account.
I think that point's really important. I'm very keen on stressing to people the importance of setting their social media profiles generally up using their business emails and keeping that control and having the ownership where it needs to be. And I suppose this is where social media policies become very important within businesses, particularly when you've got a situation like this. I mean, you know, we're just looking here in the comments, and we've got an estate agent, Hodder's estate agents, and they trade in multiple locations and potentially have all of those pages. I think that there's a temptation to have a lot of pages because you want to show up in local search for the various areas that you're trading in. But obviously one of the things you have to be aware of is that there's not much point in having pages if there's nothing going on with those pages. You know, you have a page and there needs to be some upkeep and a policy to make sure that there is some kind of consistency across the brand. It is really important.
You'll have a local page regardless. It's then a business decision as to whether you want to then take that page social and actually have it managed and outreach and engage with, you know, potential clients, existing clients, other businesses, and basically have fun with it like we all do on Google+. That's for individual businesses. You know, for businesses where you've got maybe 2 or 3 locations, it's going to be a lot easier to do. It's going to be a lot easier, an easier decision to make than if you've got 50 or 60 or even more. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely want to have a local page for each location. You will still show up in search because there are lots of other factors beyond just the social aspects of it, because you've got all of these other, you know, directories and citations and what have you. But it is then down to the individual owners as to how social they want to make it.
Okay. Can I just ask a question? We're talking about local pages here, and obviously with the new My Business setup, when you go into My Business to create a new page now, you're given 3 options. You're kind of given the storefront option for a static sort of bricks and mortar area, and then you're given an area option. How do the pages that cover an area rather than a specific address, how are they different, and how does the sort of search function differ for that type of page?
Effectively, they're the same. The only difference is in the background. The service area businesses is a slightly different setup in the background. So they effectively enable you to hide your address. So we look at say the shop front. That's really for businesses that either want folks showing up at the door, or for those businesses that see clients at their premises on a regular basis. The service area businesses, it really encompass all the home-based businesses, because it enables you to have a listing and then hide your address and then set your service area. So you say, I'm working from this particular house and I operate within a 25-mile radius of this house. That's what it'll do. In terms of the social aspects of the page and lots of the other additional stuff that you can do, I mean, you can still get reviews on a service area business page. You still have all the same social aspects of it. It's really more down to effectively Google's guidelines too. If you're a business and you don't see clients at that particular premise, you don't see clients at that location, then there are guidelines that, well, they don't suggest, they tell you that you must hide your address and set a service area.
And can I sorry, Kath.
Go on.
I was just going to ask, because obviously in terms of my business, we're based in Chorley. We have a bricks and mortar address. which shows on maps as we've just seen. But we actually, I mean, we act for clients on a nationwide basis. So I mean, we're not limited to clients. I mean, obviously, we prefer, shall we say, to service clients in our local area, because I think it enables us to give a better service and a face-to-face service. But even our local area, I consider our local area to be, you know, the whole of Lancashire. You know, we offer free home visits in the whole of Lancashire, and so we would want to target clients in that area. So in terms of by having a local page that sort of limits our address to Chorley, are we limiting ourselves? Should we have a service area page instead to cover a wider area?
No, because the local search doesn't really work like that. It's all about proximity to where that particular search is coming from. So Google knows where the search is coming from, whether you tell it or not, whether you overtly tell it or not. So you could do a search for, you know, solicitor in Chorley, or someone in Chorley could just do a search for solicitor, and you'll show up either way. If I was in Blackpool, for instance, and I did a search for solicitor in Blackpool, then it's unlikely that your local page will show up, because Google will assume that if someone is in Blackpool, they're looking for local solicitors, they're looking for local businesses. There's different ways to access different, you know, clients in other locations, and that again is there's SEO ways to do it. There's ways to do it around your website, but this again is where the social media aspect comes into it. There's no limit to who you can target, because you can go out and find people wherever they are. And you know, on Google Plus, if you're targeting clients in a particular location, you can create a circle for them and start putting out content specifically for them and draw them in that way. So there's a variety of different things you can do.
Yeah.
It's a really good question though, because it's the whole principle of local is that it is tied to your address, and so therefore you have to have a physical trading address or premises address in order to have a local page. You can't just decide to create a local page somewhere else, and they're very strict about that, aren't they?
They are, and you can't. It actually has to be a physical address, so you can't use PO boxes. What they do occasionally is they may call you, or you know, one of their call centers may pick up the phone and give you a call and say, you know, who's this? If you're a PO box and someone says, you know, is this, you know, Joe Bloggs and Sons or whatever, and they say no, it's not, then they'll suspend your listing, and that'll be that. So you do have to be accurate with your information, and I can post it in the stream again, but I posted it earlier today, a link to the Google Places, or what was the Google Play, now the Google My Business quality guidelines that effectively tell you, you know, all of the things that you need to do in terms of how your business should be listed, the data that you're supposed to put in there, and what sort of business models are ineligible for a Google Plus business page, a local page, sorry.
Okay, brilliant. Peter, how are we doing in the comments?
Yeah, Kath, there's quite a lot again coming through. There's a question here from Vivek, which he did post earlier, and we sort of got a bit lost. We want to come back to it because we were talking about sort of localities and what sort of pages. Vivek's asking privacy issues for solopreneurs working from home. Obviously, you know, if you're running a business from home, you may have an issue with having a Google Plus, Google My Business local page. What's the take on that?
If you're working from home and you're not seeing clients at your home, then you need to set yourself up as a service area business and hide your address. So Google still knows where you are, but it doesn't show it to the public.
Okay, that's great advice. Thank you.
Excellent.
And that's something that you can do on Google that many other sort of citation sites, so sites like Yelp and Yelp, you can't necessarily do that. So there's definitely an advantage with Google there.
Yeah, it's being transparent and authentic, but still managing to protect your privacy.
Yeah.
Peter, anything else in the comments? Any points that you think we might not have covered?
Well, I mean, Lee Rickler was just commenting also in response to Vivek, is that if you run a business, you have no privacy issues. If you run a business, you need to be transparent on your headquarter registered address. If anything, it's a legality.
People can always find your address. If you're a registered business, then your address will be out there somewhere. You know, that data is out there. It's a question. Through Google My Business, you have the ability to hide your address, but you know, people can do searches for you on Companies House. If you're a limited company, you can go to places like 192.com and effectively pay to get on to get access to the electoral roll. So you know, you're right to a certain extent. I mean, it can be difficult. The issue more is you know, how many people are really going to go digging around trying to find out where your business is, if on most of the major places, such as your own website, you know, Google Plus, some of the other social media places, the main places where people will look for you as a business. If you're not showing your address there, then you know, if they go looking around, then there's probably bigger issues afoot.
This may be one for Donna. I don't know if this is your area of legal expertise, but I think my understanding of, if you set up a business, a very small business, you can have a registered address with your accountants, and your accountants could be across the country. So actually, you wouldn't need to give your own personal home address if you're working from home. You might be giving your accountant's address. And is that am I right?
That's right. I mean, certainly you're right. It's not my area of law, but basically there are rules that say that if you're certainly for limited companies, you do have to state a lot of information, basically all of the information about your business, and including a registered office address on any promotional items, on websites, on letterheads, that kind of thing. But yeah, the easy way around it is to have your registered address with either an accountant or a solicitor, or it doesn't have to be your home address. A registered office address is quite often different to an address where somebody actually physically works or even possibly sees clients. I know somebody who works from home, sees clients at home, but his registered office address is his accountant's office in the next town. So it is possible to do that.
So what does that mean for a local listing then? Do you have to put your registered address in, or where you physically work?
It's your place of business. So it's where you actually work, rather than what your registered address is.
Yeah.
But would Google buy data that tells you that your registered address is somewhere else and create another local page for you?
No, very unlikely. It wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Okay. Peter, anything else?
Yeah, there's a question that was asked earlier. I just want to come back to, because it's just worth touching on, just in terms of clearing it up. Kalia Preston, have I got your name right there, Kalia? Could a low follower number, which this is referring to the knowledge graph that we showed, where it actually shows how many followers you've got on Google+, could a low follower number as a beginning page be somewhat detrimental in the search than with the knowledge graph? I'd be interested to see what you say, but I would say that's just a small part of the knowledge graph. I think it's Google's way of obviously encouraging people to build up the Google Plus brand page. Certainly the fact that they've added that to Google My Business as a sort of sidebar. But my feeling would be that I don't think it's the main criteria. The fact that you've got a really solid, good knowledge graph, and also it's an encouragement perhaps to you to actually do a bit more work on your brand page.
Yeah, I've been asked that same question at workshops, and the fact that the follower count shows has sort of been a concern for some people, because they almost sort of, if you have a lot of followers, it adds to your credibility. It's that social proof that we're all after. And if you're starting out and you've only got a few followers, then people do get a little bit concerned that could be detrimental. But as you say, Peter, I think the key there is to try and boost those numbers and to work on your page. I mean, we all talk about the fact that social media isn't just about numbers, but I think it's naive to think that social proof doesn't come into play at times. So I think that to put some effort into a page and to try and get a reasonable following isn't a bad idea, particularly as follower counts do show up on these results pages.
Yeah, and I think that's the case. I think, you know, as you say, follower count doesn't really count in terms of actual engagement. Followers can mean nothing, but the fact is, it is a vanity thing. You know, we like to have big numbers. Always, you know, if you look at cameras, it's about the 400 times zoom, which actually is pointless and meaningless. But it's about big numbers, and people are sort of a bit, as it were, goaded by numbers. But I think it's certainly. I think. I mean, Nick, would you say it's Google's way of actually encouraging people to get on Google Plus, particularly the fact they put Google Plus as a sidebar to Google My Business?
Yeah, I'm not sure why they show the view counts, and I know, you know, I mean, it can certainly be an issue. I don't think it's necessarily an issue in the local knowledge graph there, and it's like many things. You know, there might be businesses that will come and say, well, I need followers, or else I'm not going to look credible. So they'll go out and they may use tactics that are all about getting numbers rather than getting quality, and it's the quality of the followers that you really want to focus on. And as they start to grow, the importance of those followers is the knock-on effect that they have potentially with the more personalized search results that we all get, and the fact that if you, as a local business page, are engaging and connecting with other people locally, then people that they're connected, that you may not be connected to, will see your content as well, and it just all helps to bring everything back in. So that's the main thing. I'd say for the moment, you know, I mean, Google Plus itself, it may have just turned 3 years old, but for a lot of people, it's still very new. So I wouldn't get hung up on follower count too much, and just, you know, like every other social network, it's about quality, not quantity.
Okay, well, we're getting towards the hour. I don't want to run over, but I would like to kind of talk a little bit about the social aspect of what you do on these local pages. So maybe if I can come back to Donna in particular, because I thought it was really interesting that you've got all these followers on your local page. You've also got a brand page. You've got a very strong personal profile on Google Plus. How do you balance your time with your brand page, with your local page? What's most important? What kinds of things do you do with that local page?
Yeah, good question. I'll be honest, I'll hold my hand up and say that mainly I neglect my local page. I think we've had it in the comments tonight. The big question is on Google Plus, is it better to engage as a profile, as yourself, or as a page? And most people find it easier to engage as themselves. Well, I certainly do. I approach my social media in the same way as I approach in real life networking. So I think of it in terms of, you know, if I went to a networking meeting, I would walk in as Donna Beckett. I wouldn't walk in as Beckett Co Solicitors. I would engage as myself. I would be myself. I wouldn't just talk about business. I would talk about other things. I would be a person. And that is what I tend to do on Google+. The downside is that obviously, even for someone like me, a complete Google+ addict who spends a lot of time on there, it is hard to find time to engage as yourself and to find reasonable content to put on your brand page and to engage as your brand. I know that there's a school of thought that says you should really be engaging as your brand so that people get to know your brand and engage with your brand. And I can completely understand that point of view. I just personally find it quite hard to do that. So I try to bring my page into my profile. So quite often I will post something on my business page, on my brand page, and then possibly reshare it with some added commentary or an additional question or some extra information to my profile. And I personally find that I get far more engagement when I'm posting as me, as Donna Beckett, rather than as Beckett Co Solicitors. I do accept that could be because solicitors are not the most exciting people in the world, and our content isn't quite as exciting and fun as other businesses' content may be. I mean, there are some businesses out there, and their content is very visual, and it's fun and it's exciting. And obviously, for those types of businesses, the sensible thing to do would be to post as their page and engage as their page. But yeah, I find it hard to give my brand page, well, it's a local page, but my business page, the love that it should really be getting from me.
And you're getting a lot of followers on it anyway. So that's brilliant. Well done. We've covered some absolutely fantastic topics tonight. I think I feel a lot more intelligent when it comes to local search. I've learned a lot of things. I'd like to just whiz through the panel and get some final thoughts, anything you'd like to say about the topic or about your own businesses or anything you're up to that you'd just like to tell us about. Let's start with Nick.
What am I up to? Thank you. Yes. But effectively, really, just 100%. Not 100. Like most of my focus now is entirely on Google Plus. I think as a network, it's the closest thing that I've come to actual real life networking for so many businesses. It really can be so successful. So really, looking to do more of this and carry on. Basically spreading the word. I think Google My Business has opened things up and made things a lot easier for businesses to access it. That doesn't take away from a lot of the basics that need to be done, but it's an exciting time to be in this space and to try and figure out where they may be going next, and watching how us as consumers change our search habits. It's an exciting time. So yeah, I'm basically splitting time now between doing a lot of the local SEO stuff and really ploughing on with some really exciting stuff on Google Plus. I'm looking forward. I'll go through the comment stream afterwards, and if there are any unanswered questions, I'll try and get those done and spread out some links to some decent content as and where it's necessary. But this has been, for a first live hangout, this has been a lot of fun.
How long have you got to spend in the comment stream? Because looking at the comment stream, there's a lot of stuff, and we've only covered just to scrape the surface. So thank you so much for.
It might take a while, yeah.
Brilliant, Donna. Any final thoughts?
Nick's just made a really valid point there. He just mentioned the way that search is going to be developing, and I think that social search is something that's definitely going to be developing. I think the search engine searches are dropping, and people are using their social media platforms as search engines in themselves. So I'm certainly going to continue my efforts on Google Plus. I just want to give a quick shout out to the UK Connect community. Woo! We're definitely going to keep on, pushing the BritPack on Google Plus. My big business insights that I now get through my business are telling me that 80% of our new followers are from the UK, which is really, really encouraging. So we're going to keep pushing that. We're going to be looking at doing some member spotlight hangouts and spreading the word. As I say, I'm on a mission to get the UK plussing, and I'm going to continue with that.
Brilliant, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Great British Hangout. It's fantastic. Peter.
Yeah, and I'm with Donna completely. And I think in any network, you think of any offline network, lives and dies by having people to go along to that network. If people don't turn up, the network dies. Google Plus is really beginning to thrive in the UK, and the more businesses, the more people get on Google Plus and use it for their business, the more Google Plus in the UK will thrive, and in Europe and in other countries as well. So, let's keep Brit-packing, let's keep Euro packing, or New Zealand and Australia packing, and let's spread the Google Plus sort of vibe across, because I think it really is going to be important going forward. Just want to say, just very briefly, just to give encouragement to Amelia Hoskins, because she said, well, I wish I'd started a brand, but the G+ experts told us to use our personal profile. I could be wrong. I think, Amelia, carry on what you're doing. You're doing great. And I think the more, as Donna's given testimony to, the more you can actually be you and represent your brand really well, the more successful you can be. So just carry on doing what you're doing well and doing well. So it's been great. Thank you, Nick and Donna and Kath too, for doing a great job with sitting in the hot seat, as it were.
Brilliant. It is quite steamy here now. I'm a little bit red, but we're nearly at the finish line.
And actually, we do just give a shout out to Donna and Nick, because it's actually they are one today with their experience on Hangouts. We should have brought a large baptistry and dunked you in it at the start, because it's their first experience on a Hangout, so I think they've done brilliantly.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Oops, just blue box in here, it's white box in now. Anyway, I actually just want to reinforce that as well, because when Peter approached me to collaborate on the Great British Hangout, it was kind of joining forces to say, come on, let's see, can we do this together? Because we were both keen, and I would never have done this without him. So collaborating, if you're a little bit wary of getting onto Hangouts or running Hangouts, is a great idea. Jumping onto Hangouts like this and being a guest and getting some experience is fantastic. And I'm absolutely delighted that both Nick and Donna responded so well to our strong arming to get them on here, and basically almost sending them cameras. We won't send you a camera, but we will keep nagging
almost.
You. Almost, yeah. You haven't got it yet.
We won't tell anyone we had to hire some people with violin cases to go around the houses, but that's just by the by.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we're 2 minutes over, but I am going to press the button and call this to a close, and thank everybody for coming along to watch and taking part, and anybody who watches after the fact. We will be responding to the comments and hopefully helping anybody who's got any issues with their local pages. But, you know, embrace Google+. It's brilliant. It's only going to get better. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye from the latest slice of the Great British Hangout.
Bye.
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 Bye.